The desert of Giza holds its breath at dawn. The sky blushes pale pink as the first light brushes against the limestone casing of the Great Pyramid. Once polished so bright it could have mirrored the sun. 45 centuries have passed since its completion, and still it rises from the sand with angles as crisp as a blade, dwarfing the crowds that gather at its base. Among the known passages and chambers, mapped and photographed 1,000 times, there is still one space dark, sealed, silent, that no human has ever stepped into. Before we dive in, if you truly enjoy what I share here, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe, it means a lot. And in the comments, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Now, settle in, dim the lights, maybe let a fan hum softly in the background, and let's begin. For centuries, this pyramid has been more than a monument. It has been a question carved in stone: who built it, how, and most hauntingly why. Travelers from Herodotus in the 5th century before Christ to Napoleon in the 18th century of our era stood before these blocks, staggered by their scale. They measured, they speculated, they filled pages with wonder and conjecture. Yet within the heart of this structure, there remains a chamber untouched, a void so carefully hidden that even today's most advanced technology has only glimpsed it. The story of this hidden space is not just about bricks and mortar. It is about the tension between what we know and what we dare to imagine. Egyptologists describe the pyramid as a tomb raised for the pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BCE. They trace quarry marks, chisels, and work crews. They point to nearby workers' villages as evidence of human labor on a massive scale. And still, questions persist. Could this unentered chamber hold something that confirms or perhaps unsettles the story we have told ourselves about Egypt for centuries? The desert wind carries grains of sand that whisper across the stone. To stand here is to sense both the weight of history and the immensity of mystery. The pyramid is at once solid and elusive, its stones can be touched, but its truth drifts just beyond reach. This first part is a threshold. Step across with me, and we will explore not only what has been discovered inside the Great Pyramid, but also what has remained resolutely hidden. And at the center of it all, there is that sealed chamber, a space that might be nothing more than a clever trick of ancient architecture or the last unopened door of human memory. Next, we will journey into the world of those who built it, to see how tens of thousands of hands, guided by vision and command, created one of the most enduring enigmas of our species. The year is around 2560 BCE. Along the banks of the Nile, the air is thick with dust and the echo of hammer on stone. Here, in the quarries of Tura and Aswan, thousands of workers carved out limestone and granite that would be ferried downriver, each block destined for the rising pyramid at Giza. We often picture the building of the Great Pyramid as a tale of whips and slaves, a vision burned into popular imagination. But archaeology tells a quieter, and perhaps more human, story. In the desert beside the pyramid itself, traces of a vast workers' village have been unearthed. Bread ovens, fish bones, and simple dormitories. These were not slaves, but organized laborers, farmers, and villagers, fulfilling service to the king during the agricultural off-season. When the Nile flooded their fields, they were fed, housed, and even tended by doctors whose tools we still find in the sand. In those humble discoveries, the pyramid ceases to be just a monument of stone. It becomes a monument of human life. The image is almost hypnotic. Teams of workers dragging sledges across the sand, pouring water in front of the runners to reduce friction. Recent experiments show this simple act could halve the effort needed to move the massive blocks. One can almost hear the creak of the ropes, the rhythm of chants keeping men in unison, the crash of stone as each block was laid into place with painstaking precision. No detail was too small. The pyramid rises not in myth, but in sweat, song, and dust. Of course, this raises a puzzle. Even with tens of thousands of workers, how did they achieve such astonishing accuracy? The base of the Great Pyramid, covering 13 acres, is level to within just a few centimeters. The sides align almost perfectly to the cardinal directions. Modern engineers, armed with lasers and GPS, marvel at this precision. Some see in it evidence of mathematics so advanced that it seems out of place in the 3rd millennium BCE. Others argue that simple tools, used carefully and persistently, can achieve wonders. This is where interpretations diverge. Mainstream Egyptologists see the pyramid as the pinnacle of a long evolution in building techniques, perfected after centuries of smaller pyramids and stepped structures. But alternative thinkers suggest something more, perhaps knowledge borrowed from an earlier, lost civilization, or guidance rooted in the stars themselves. It is in these debates that the pyramid slips again into enigma. For the workers themselves, the reasons may not have mattered. The sun rose, the stone was cut, the blocks were set. What we glimpse through their remains, the rough pottery, the soot-blackened hearths, is not grandeur but routine. The pyramid, for all its immensity, was built by ordinary people bound to an extraordinary vision. And within that paradox lies its fascination. The human hand, moving mountains. As you picture the vast base of the pyramid stretching out under the desert sun, think of it not as a lifeless mass of stone, but as a chorus of voices, footsteps, and breaths layered into its foundations. Every block is a story of strength, of fatigue, of persistence, and somewhere above this colossal foundation, the sealed chamber waits, as if it were watching the labor unfold, knowing that its secret would remain safe. From here, our path takes us inside the pyramid itself, into its narrow shafts and hidden alignments. These passages are not random. They follow patterns that seem to reach for the sky, but were they built to guide the dead or to chart the heavens? Step with me now into the cool shadow of the Great Pyramid. The noise of the desert fades behind you. The sunlight shrinks to a sliver. The air is still, dry, and tinged with the faint mineral scent of limestone. Within these walls lies a network of shafts and passages, rising and falling like veins through stone. They do not wander aimlessly. Each is cut with purpose, their angles precise, their lines pointing outward as though the pyramid itself were gazing at the sky. The most famous are the narrow shafts leading from the king's chamber and the so-called queen's chamber. Too small for people to crawl through, they stretch upward, their destinations hidden. For generations, they were thought to be mere ventilation channels, a practical detail in an otherwise symbolic tomb. Yet when researchers measured their alignments, something remarkable emerged. The shafts pointed almost exactly toward specific stars, Orion's belt, Sirius, and others sacred to ancient Egyptian cosmology. To the Egyptians, the stars were not distant suns but eternal spirits. Orion, they believed, was linked to Osiris, the god of rebirth. Sirius marked the flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of the land. Aligning a chamber to these celestial markers may have been more than architecture. It was a prayer carved in stone, a bridge between the pharaoh's soul and the heavens. Imagine lying in silence within those chambers, the darkness broken only by the faint glow of starlight filtering through a narrow slit, as if the cosmos itself leaned close to listen. Not all scholars agree. Some maintain the shafts had purely structural or symbolic roles, channels not for air or light but for meaning. Others suggest that they may have been left incomplete, their intended purpose lost. What unites these views is the recognition that the pyramid was not random stonework but a deliberate map, carefully orienting itself both to the earth and the sky. Even the entire pyramid's alignment stirs awe. Its sides face almost perfectly north, south, east, and west. The error is less than a fraction of a degree, an accuracy hard to achieve without modern tools. The question lingers: did the builders use the stars themselves to set their compass, or did they possess techniques that archaeology has yet to rediscover? Inside, the geometry continues to intrigue. Passages rise steeply, then flatten, then climb again. The grand gallery, with its soaring corbelled ceiling, stretches upward like a stairway into darkness. Each angle, each chamber, each shaft seems woven into a grand design, as if the pyramid were not just a tomb but a diagram, a message left for those who could read in stone. And yet, for all its precision, mystery endures. Why 2 chambers, kings and queens, when only one burial has ever been suggested? Why a gallery of such height and complexity, if not to frame something more than stone? And what of the shafts that end abruptly, sealed by mysterious limestone blocks with copper fittings, as though to guard what lies beyond? Walking through these passages in your mind, you can feel the weight of the pyramid above millions of tons pressing down. The silence deepens, broken only by the faint echo of your own breath. It is here, in this hush, that the pyramid whispers its most compelling enigma. Was it a house for the dead, or a living map of eternity? Next, We will listen to the faint voices of history itself, not carved in stone, but inked on papyrus in dusty journals of workers and foremen. In those fragile scraps of writing, the grandeur of the pyramid becomes flesh and bone, reminding us that behind its cosmic geometry stood human lives. Among the silence of stone, there are still voices faint, fragile, but unmistakably human. Not the voice of a pharaoh issuing commands from a throne, but of foremen, scribes and workers, leaving their marks on scraps of papyrus and blocks of limestone. These remnants, preserved by chance in the desert's dry embrace, speak to us across 45 centuries with a clarity no monument could provide. One of the most precious is the so-called Diary of Mera, unearthed in 2013 near the Red Sea. Written by an overseer of work crews, this papyrus scroll records the movements of men and materials. In its faded lines, we read of boats hauling massive blocks of fine limestone from quarries at Tura, ferried along canals to the construction site at Giza. Mera notes schedules, deliveries, and the rhythm of work in the 27th year of King Khufu's reign. The tone is not mystical but practical, a ledger of labor. And yet, in that practicality, the pyramid comes alive. We see not only stone but a supply chain, not only grandeur but daily grind. Other fragments reveal the names of work gangs, painted in ochre on hidden blocks. Teams called themselves the Drunkards of Menkora or the Friends of Khufu, playful nicknames scrawled like graffiti in spaces never meant for public view. These marks remind us that workers, though bound to a monumental task, carried humour and camaraderie into the shadow of the stones. Imagine a group of tired men at the end of the day, joking as they brush pigment onto a block, unaware that their jest would outlast empires. Archaeologists have also uncovered medical instruments, bread ovens, and jars of beer from the workers' village near Giza. Each artifact testifies to an infrastructure designed not for slaves driven by lash, but for organised crews fed and housed to keep the work going. Doctors treated injuries, bakers fed the masses, brewers kept morale high. In the smoke of those ovens and the chatter of those kitchens, the pyramid reveals itself as less a miracle and more a collective effort, immense but tangible. The papyrian notes do not answer every question. They do not tell us why the pyramid was aligned with such cosmic precision, nor what lies within the sealed voids. But they anchor us in the world of the builders. When speculation grows too airy, these voices pull us back to earth, reminding us that behind every massive block was a hand that lifted, a back that bent, and a mind that measured. To hold such fragments in a museum today is to feel the delicate bridge between past and present. The ink is faint, the papyrus brittle, the handwriting uneven, but the humanity is unmistakable. In their brevity lies something profound, the recognition that even the grandest mystery rests upon ordinary lives. As we move forward, the story shifts from human traces to a mystery hidden within the stone itself. Modern scans have revealed something astonishing, a vast, unexplored void above the Grand Gallery. Could this be the chamber no one has ever entered? The Great Pyramid has always seemed like a monument without surprises. For more than 4,000 years, it has dominated the plateau at Giza, its angles weathered but unmistakable, its chambers mapped again and again by explorers, scientists and tourists alike. Yet in 2017, something extraordinary occurred. Using tools that did not exist until the modern age, a team of researchers peered into the heart of the pyramid without breaking a single stone, and what they found was a void so large, so unexpected, that it reignited one of the world's oldest mysteries. The discovery came through a project called Scan Pyramids, led by a team of scientists from France and Japan in partnership with the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities. Their method was elegant, almost poetic. They relied on muons, subatomic particles created when cosmic rays collide with the Earth's atmosphere. These particles rain down continuously, moving through solid matter with ease, slowed only by density. By placing sensitive detectors inside and around the pyramid, the team could see how many muons passed through its walls. Where fewer particles arrived, stone was thick. Where more arrived, there was air. The result was an image of the pyramid's insides, drawn not with light, but with the silent fall of the cosmos itself. What emerged from those scans stunned the world. Above the Grand Gallery, a soaring passageway already remarkable in its size, the detectors revealed a previously unknown space. It was not a tiny cavity or crack. It stretched more than 30 meters, longer than a city bus, with a cross-section high enough for a person to stand comfortably within. No archaeologist had ever documented it. No explorer had ever set eyes upon it. In the most studied monument on Earth, there was still a chamber no one had entered. At first, the find seemed almost impossible to believe. Had centuries of surveyors, engineers, and adventurers truly overlooked something so large? But repeated scans confirmed it. The void was real. Its precise shape and orientation remain unclear. It may be a corridor, a great hall, or even a cluster of smaller cavities, but its presence is undeniable. The pyramid, once thought fully charted, still holds secrets. What could such a void be for? The simplest explanation, offered by many Egyptologists, is that it serves a structural purpose. Above the king's chamber, for example, a series of relieving chambers was built to divert the immense weight of the pyramid stones, preventing collapse. Perhaps the newly discovered void performs a similar function, protecting the grand gallery beneath. It would be an architectural device, not a hidden treasure. Yet the mystery resists closure. The void's size, its placement, and its secrecy raise questions. Why build such a massive space if it would never be used, never seen? Why align it above one of the pyramid's most prominent corridors, then seal it so perfectly that it left no external trace? For those inclined to wonder, the void does not feel like an accident of engineering. It feels like a deliberate choice. Alternative theories soon circulated. Some proposed that it could be a storage chamber for construction materials, left behind when the pyramid was sealed. Others suggested it might be the true burial chamber of Khufu, hidden high above the obvious rooms to deter robbers. More imaginative voices proposed symbolic functions, a chamber meant to house the pharaoh's soul, a vessel for cosmic energy, or even a library of lost knowledge. None of these claims has evidence to support them, but the lack of answers leaves the door ajar. For now, the chamber remains inaccessible. To reach it, archaeologists would have to cut through ancient masonry, an act few are willing to attempt. The pyramid is both fragile and sacred, and opening a path risks damage to its structure and to the trust of those who see it as a cultural treasure. Instead, researchers continue to refine their scans, hoping that new technology will allow them to peer more clearly into the void without disturbing a single stone. This uncertainty has a strange power. The void is there, as real as the desert sun, yet invisible and untouchable. It hovers just beyond reach, a presence you can only imagine. Standing in the Grand Gallery, its corbelled ceiling soaring upward like a stairway for giants, you cannot help but look to the stone above and wonder. Beyond that ceiling, 30 meters of emptiness or mystery waits in silence. There is a sensory quality to this absence. If you close your eyes, you can almost feel the cool air of the Grand Gallery thinning as it rises into the hidden space. You can hear the muffled echo of your breath, bouncing off stone that has not been touched for millennia. The void is not only unseen, it is untested, unmeasured, unspoken. Its silence presses down as heavily as the stones themselves. What fascinates scholars and dreamers alike is how this discovery changes our relationship to the pyramid. For centuries, it has been both monument and mystery, but many assumed that its secrets were essentially exhausted. Now, the void proves otherwise. It reminds us that even the most familiar wonders of the world may still harbor the unknown. The Great Pyramid is not finished revealing itself. Of course, the caution of archaeology remains. Most experts lean toward the mundane explanation. A structural feature, a hollow left to manage weight. They remind us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that imagination cannot substitute for proof. Yet even these scholars acknowledge the wonder of the find. In the greatest monument of antiquity, we have stumbled upon a space untouched by human hands for 45 centuries. That fact alone is extraordinary. Perhaps the void's true purpose will never be known. Perhaps it was meant to remain hidden, a mystery sealed by ancient architects who understood the power of silence. Or perhaps, in time, new technologies will allow us to see inside, to map its walls and learn its secrets. Until then, the void remains a paradox, empty yet full, silent yet eloquent, sealed yet inviting. And in that paradox lies its allure. The Great Pyramid has always stood at the edge of knowledge, half in history, half in legend. The hidden void is its latest whisper, a reminder that some questions endure not to be answered but to keep us asking. Next, we turn from the discovery itself to the debates it has stirred. Between cautious archaeologists and bold alternative theorists, interpretations of the void tell us not only about ancient Egypt, but also about ourselves, our need for certainty, our hunger for mystery, and the delicate line we walk between the two. The Great Pyramid of Giza has never been just a pile of stones. Since antiquity, it has been a screen upon which generations have projected their hopes, fears, and theories. When we stand before it, we see not only an ancient monument but also a reflection of our own questions. Was it simply a tomb, raised for a single king? Was it an observatory, a map of the stars, or even a machine of lost power? The void revealed above the Grand Gallery, combined with the pyramid's extraordinary precision, has only deepened the debates. Between cautious archaeology and daring imagination, the pyramid asks us to weigh truth against speculation. The mainstream view remains steady. The Great Pyramid was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, around 2560 BCE, as a tomb for his body and a monument to his reign. This interpretation is not casual, it rests on decades of archaeological evidence. Quarry marks in hidden chambers bear Khufu's name. Papyri like the Diary of Mera record limestone deliveries for the project during his reign. Nearby, the workers' village shows how thousands of labourers were organised and sustained. Even the pyramid complex itself, with its temples and causeways, fits within the broader pattern of Old Kingdom funerary practices. For most Egyptologists, the evidence is overwhelming. The pyramid was Khufu's tomb, yet the tomb theory leaves gaps. No mummy of Khufu has ever been found inside. No inscriptions or wall decorations adorn the main chambers. Unlike the richly carved tombs in the Valley of the Kings, the sheer scale of the pyramid seems to exceed the needs of a single burial. These silences have invited alternative readings, some grounded in cautious hypothesis, others in bold conjecture. One line of interpretation focuses on the pyramid's astronomical alignments. The shafts pointing toward Orion's belt and Sirius suggest to some scholars that the pyramid was more than a resting place. It was a cosmic engine designed to launch the pharaoh's soul into the heavens. This does not contradict the tomb theory but enriches it. The pyramid as both grave and gateway. The precision of the pyramid's alignment to the cardinal directions north, south, east and west has also been seen as a symbolic anchoring, binding heaven and earth. But beyond these cautious expansions lie more radical ideas. In the 19th and 20th centuries, fringe theorists proposed that the pyramid was never a tomb at all. Instead, they claimed it was an energy generator, a water pump, or even a beacon left by an advanced civilization. Some suggested it encoded mathematical constants like pi or the golden ratio, seeing in its dimensions a secret knowledge too advanced for its time. Others drew connections between pyramids across continents, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Mesoamerica, and imagined a lost global culture that passed down the design. These theories often gain traction because they point to real puzzles. How did ancient builders move multi-ton blocks with apparent ease? How did they achieve such flawless geometry with primitive tools? Why does the pyramid scale dwarf all others that came after? Mainstream archaeology offers answers: ramps, sledges, levers, and generations of trial and error. But the simplicity of those tools, when contrasted with the monument's perfection, continues to invite doubt. Still, it is crucial to mark the boundary between hypothesis and evidence. No physical trace of advanced machines, lost civilizations, or alien intervention has ever been found at Giza. The pyramid contains no wiring, no turbines, no exotic alloys, only stone, mortar, and the careful craft of human hands. When alternative theories claim otherwise, they move from the realm of archaeology into the realm of story. That does not strip them of fascination. It simply reminds us of the difference between fact and imagination. Yet imagination has its place. The pyramid's endurance may rest not only in its stone but in its capacity to inspire wonder. A tomb alone might have been forgotten. A machine of mystery continues to live in the human mind. In that sense, both the Egyptologist and the dreamer are correct. The pyramid is what the evidence says it is, but it is also what the human spirit longs for it to be. The void discovered above the Grand Gallery illustrates this tension. To some, It is nothing more than an architectural feature explained by physics and necessity. To others, it is the most compelling clue yet that the pyramid still hides a chamber of purpose. Whether a king's hidden resting place, a ritual hall, or something entirely unexpected, the truth may lie in between, a structural space that, in its silence, gathers symbolic meaning. What becomes clear when we survey the theories is not only what the pyramid may be, but what we are. We hunger for certainty, yet we also crave mystery. We want answers, but we also love the chase. The Great Pyramid provides both. It offers tangible evidence of human ingenuity, while withholding just enough to keep imagination alive. Picture yourself standing at the base of the pyramid as twilight falls. The desert cools, shadows stretch long across the plateau, and the limestone glows faintly in the fading sun. Above you, millions of tons of stone rise toward the stars. Within, chambers both known and unknown hold their silence. Around you, voices of scholars and storytellers mingle, one declaring it a tomb, another an observatory, another a machine of power. None can silence the others. The pyramid listens, unmoved, as it has for millennia. In the next part, we will widen our lens. Egypt was not alone in raising pyramids. From Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, cultures separated by oceans and centuries built their own monuments of stepped stone. Were these coincidences of form, shaped by human necessity, or do they hint at something deeper, a universal memory, or a connection long forgotten? The pyramid is not Egypt's alone. From the windswept plains of Mesopotamia to the humid jungles of Mesoamerica, from China's buried emperors to Nubia's slender towers, pyramids rise again and again across the human story. Some are stepped, some smooth, some built of sun-baked mud, others of quarried stone. And yet, across oceans and centuries, civilizations who never met seem to have dreamed in the same shape. Why? What draws humanity, again and again, to this form that points a mountain at the sky? In Mesopotamia, long before Khufu reigned, people raised ziggurats, massive stepped platforms, like the Great Ziggurat of Ur around 2100 BCE. Unlike the Egyptian pyramids, ziggurats were not tombs but temples, bridges between the earth and the heavens. Priests climbed their tiers to make offerings, lifting smoke and prayers toward the gods. Built of mud brick, they have crumbled with time, but their outlines remain. Layered mountains crafted by hand, meant to anchor the divine in the soil of daily life. Far away, across an ocean the Egyptians never knew, the Maya and the Aztecs also built pyramids. The Temple of the Sun at Teotihuacan rises more than 60 meters, its steps leading upward to a flat summit where rituals burned beneath the open sky. In Palenque, Tikal, and Chichen Itza, pyramids served not as tombs but as stages for ceremony, sometimes aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and celestial events. At Chichen Itza, on the equinox, the setting sun cast a shadow of a serpent sliding down the steps of El Castillo, a vision that must have thrilled crowds gathered in the plaza. In Nubia, south of Egypt, hundreds of smaller pyramids dot the desert, steep-sided and narrow. They housed the kings and queens of Kush, who adopted and reinterpreted Egyptian traditions. Their compact forms remind us that cultural influence often flows both ways, ideas crossing borders like winds across sand. In China's Shaanxi province, burial mounds of ancient emperors take pyramid-like forms, covered now by grass and trees. The most famous, the tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang, remains sealed, guarded by the terracotta army and a legend of rivers of mercury. Like Egypt's pyramids, these structures blend burial, ritual, and cosmology, raising Earth into geometry that outlives dynasties. When we set these monuments side by side, questions surface. Were they connected? Did knowledge travel somehow across continents in ages long before recorded contact? Or is the pyramid simply a natural solution, a shape humanity discovers whenever it builds big and high? A wide base provides stability, tapering upward allows height. In physics, the pyramid is efficient. In symbolism, it is transcendent. It is both mountain and ladder, reaching to gods, stars, or eternity. Scholars generally see convergence rather than contact. Civilizations face similar challenges: how to create a monument that endures, how to represent a link between earth and sky, and the pyramid answered elegantly. It is stable, visible, and imbued with meaning. Yet the coincidences still stir imagination. How striking that Egyptians aligned their pyramids with Orion, while Maya aligned theirs with Venus and the Sun. How striking that both cultures, worlds apart, use stone mountains to fold the heavens into human life. For alternative thinkers, the similarities hint at something deeper, perhaps a shared memory from a lost civilization or forgotten encounters across the seas. Legends of Atlantis, or of global seafarers carrying sacred geometry, surface whenever pyramids are compared. Evidence is lacking, yet the allure persists. A person gazing at the stepped pyramid of Saqqara and another gazing at the Temple of the Sun in Teotihuacan would feel the same sensation, awe at a human-made mountain. Is it any wonder we dream of connection? In the stillness of night, imagine standing on the plateau of Giza, then shifting suddenly to the Avenue of the Dead in Mexico, lined with temples and pyramids. The air is different, the dry desert winds of Africa, the humid jungle breath of the Americas, but the silhouette is the same. Stone climbing skyward, shadows falling long at sunset. In those mirrored shapes, one feels humanity's shared longing, even if no ship ever crossed the oceans to carry it. Perhaps the pyramid is not evidence of forgotten contact, but of a universal human instinct. Wherever we build, we lift stone and earth into a mountain, because the mountain is the oldest symbol of permanence and transcendence. In Egypt, the pyramid was the pharaoh's stairway to eternity. In Mesopotamia, it was the priest's bridge to heaven. In Mesoamerica, it was the stage of cosmic cycles. In China, it was the emperor's cosmic axis, the world in miniature. The pyramid is at once practical and poetic. It holds against time, and it holds meaning. And maybe that is why it recurs, not because humans copied one another, but because they shared the same desire to anchor the infinite in the earth. Yet, even if convergence is explanation enough, the question remains alive. Could there be fragments of knowledge lost between these cultures, traces of contact we have yet to uncover? Or are we looking not for ships across seas, but for something subtler, the echo of the same dream in distant minds? In the next part, we will return to Egypt, to consider the unentered chamber as more than stone. What if it is not only a hidden room, but a metaphor of silence, of limits, of the mysteries we choose to preserve? Deep inside the Great Pyramid, beyond the galleries where visitors have walked and explorers have measured, there lies a space no one has entered. It is sealed in limestone, untouched by light for more than 4,000 years. We call it a chamber, a void, a cavity revealed by modern scans, but it is also something larger, a symbol of the limits we encounter when we reach the edge of knowledge. The unentered chamber belongs not only to the pyramid, but to the imagination. For centuries, each age has projected its own meanings onto this silent monument. In the Middle Ages, travelers spoke of secret libraries sealed within, where the wisdom of lost civilizations waited to be found. In the age of Napoleon, scholars measured its angles and saw in them echoes of mathematics and prophecy. Victorian dreamers imagined golden sarcophagi and lost treasures hidden behind unbroken walls. Today, physicists trace cosmic particles through its stones and find empty spaces that refuse to explain themselves. The chamber shifts shape with every generation, not in stone, but in meaning. The unentered chamber becomes, in this way, a mirror of human longing. To some, it is knowledge waiting, perhaps scrolls of forgotten science, perhaps artifacts that could change history. To others, it is a metaphor for humility, proof that not everything yields to our tools. It may hold nothing more than silence, but even silence can carry weight. Like a locked diary, its very inaccessibility stirs imagination more than any revelation could. And what does this say about us? That even in an age of satellites, lasers, and particle detectors, we are drawn to the unknown. We peer through walls with cosmic rays, map voids with supercomputers, yet we hesitate to break through the stone itself. There is reverence in that restraint. The pyramid teaches us that knowledge has boundaries, and that some mysteries are meaningful precisely because they remain sealed. The metaphor runs deeper still. Each of us carries unentered chambers within memories not fully uncovered, questions not fully answered, silences we keep even from ourselves. The pyramid, in this sense, is more than architecture. It is a reflection of the human condition. Its sealed room is our own sealed history, our own guarded mysteries. When we look at it, we do not only ask about ancient Egypt, we ask about ourselves. Yet the chamber also represents possibility. It is a blank page waiting to be filled by imagination. Writers, artists, and theorists have spun entire worlds around it. Tales of hidden relics, cosmic machines, and forgotten civilizations. Even if none of these are true, the act of imagining keeps the pyramid alive in culture. The stone endures, but so does the story. In that sense, the chamber is less about what it contains and more about what it inspires. Consider standing at the base of the pyramid at sunset. The stone glows warm in the fading light, the air cools, and the first stars appear. Above you rises a structure older than most of recorded history, and within it a chamber you cannot see. You feel its presence, not as a physical space but as a question. Should we open it? Should it remain untouched? What might it teach us if left sealed forever? The very act of wondering is the chamber's gift. Across cultures, this pattern repeats. The Greeks imagined the pyramids as granaries built by Joseph, linking them to biblical memory. Medieval Arab historians describe them as vaults built to preserve wisdom against a coming flood. Today, archaeologists emphasize their role as tombs, while dreamers see in them engines of power or maps of the stars. The unentered chamber floats among these interpretations like a shifting symbol, its meaning remade with each telling. Perhaps this is the pyramid's deepest lesson, that mystery itself has value. A mystery invites humility, reminding us that our reach has limits, but it also invites imagination, reminding us that limits are not walls but thresholds. In leaving one chamber sealed, the builders gave us more than stone. They gave us a silence that has lasted for millennia. And maybe that is the true chamber, not the limestone void above the Grand Gallery, but the space it opens in our minds. Perhaps the sealed room is not there to be entered, but to remind us that some questions are not meant to be answered, only carried. As our journey nears its close, the unentered chamber leads us back to the sky. For what is sealed in stone is mirrored in the stars. Distances we cannot cross, mysteries we cannot solve, beauty we can only contemplate. In the final part, we will step out once more beneath that sky over Giza to ask what endures in stone and in silence, in what we know and what we will never know. Night has fallen on the Giza plateau. The crowds have gone, the last vendors have packed away their goods, and the desert lies still. Above, the sky is a river of stars, glimmering with the same constellations that ancient Egyptians once watched. Against this backdrop, the Great Pyramid looms as a dark silhouette, its edges softened by shadow, but its form unmistakable. It stands not only as a monument of stone, but as a mirror, reflecting what we know, what we guess, and what we are still unable to grasp. We know certain things with clarity. Archaeology has shown that the pyramid was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, around 2560 BCE. The Diary of Mera, a fragile papyrus discovered by the Red Sea, records the transport of limestone to Giza in Khufu's 27th year. Quarry marks hidden inside the pyramid's upper chambers bear his name. The workers' village excavated nearby reveals bread ovens, beer jars, and tools, showing how laborers lived and worked. These details anchor the pyramid in history. They remind us that this miracle was not conjured by magic or alien hands, but by thousands of ordinary people, their lives woven into the stone. We also know something of the techniques. Experiments demonstrate how sledges, wetted sand, and ramps could have moved massive blocks. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of causeways and foundations that may have supported such ramps. Copper chisels, pounding stones, and wooden levers speak to the tools available. We can picture the rhythm. Workers hauling in unison, foremen shouting commands, dust rising as each block found its place. These reconstructions may not answer every detail, but they form a picture of persistence and ingenuity. Yet even with this knowledge, questions remain. Why such precision? The pyramid's base covers over 13 acres yet is level to within centimeters. Its sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, an accuracy that challenges even modern surveyors. The shafts pointing toward Orion and Sirius suggest cosmic intentions. But were they symbolic, ritualistic, or functional? The void revealed above the Grand Gallery complicates the story further, too large to dismiss, too inaccessible to explore. It could be a relieving space, a hidden chamber, or something we have yet to imagine. Here, we move from knowledge into guesswork. Some scholars argue the pyramid served solely as a tomb, its grandeur reflecting the divine status of Khufu. Others see it as more, a cosmological statement, a bridge between earth and sky, a vessel ensuring the pharaoh's rebirth among the stars. Fringe theorists step further, proposing lost technologies, ancient power plants, or remnants of a forgotten civilization. Evidence does not support these claims, yet their persistence reveals something important: the human need for wonder. And perhaps that is the enduring truth. The pyramid is not only stone, it is a canvas. It reflects the questions of those who look upon it. To Egyptologists, it is an archaeological treasure. To spiritual seekers, it is a temple. To dreamers, it is a mystery machine. To those who work with stone, it is an engineering marvel. Each perspective says as much about us as it does about the pyramid. What, then, remains beautifully uncertain? The unentered chamber above the Grand Gallery may hold its silence forever. Khufu's body, if it was ever here, has never been found. The exact methods of construction remain debated. The pyramid's symbolic meaning, shifting with time, may never be fixed, and perhaps it should not be. Uncertainty keeps the pyramid alive. A solved riddle becomes history. An unsolved one becomes legend. Standing at Giza beneath the stars, you feel this tension. The stones are solid, tangible. You can place your hand upon them and feel their roughness, their chill after sunset. Yet what they mean slips through your fingers. The pyramid is both presence and absence, a monument of facts and a vessel of questions. It endures because it does not yield everything. There is a quiet wisdom in this. Not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some exist to remind us of humility, to keep us searching, to inspire new generations. The pyramid's endurance lies not only in its limestone blocks, but in its capacity to reflect the longings of each age. As long as humans wonder, the pyramid will never be finished. So, as the night sky drifts over Giza, one question lingers: what secrets are meant to stay and which are waiting for us to find? Perhaps the answer lies not in breaking into sealed chambers, but in how we learn to live with mystery. The Great Pyramid endures not because it has been explained, but because it continues to resist explanation. It is both monument and mirror, teaching us that sometimes the most profound truths are the ones that remain just out of reach.